Now we're talking Phase 4. Talk spoiler alert right now for WandaVision Episode 8, the episode before the big season finale. We're recording this on Monday, so for us it's this Friday. But if you're listening on Patreon, then this is 2 days away for you. If you're listening on Thursday when we drop this on public, hey, it's tonight. I mean, it's tomorrow for you. So right around the corner, one more to go. Man, bitter, sweet. Want to get some gut checks here. I know we've been talking a little bit in between on the break, so I think you guys will probably be able to summarize this pretty good. I am so pumped for the season finale. Holy shit, there were some big payoffs in this episode of episode 8 for some OG MCU films I've been watching. We just talked about a big connection to a movie we just watched, and we're going to get into it, talk about the story, make our prediction. Before we get there, let's do a quick gut check. I'm going to start with PC Mike. Tell us how you felt about this episode, for real, because this is good. It needs to be well-rounded.
Honestly, a little disappointed in this week's episode.
Okay, tell us why.
Not to say that it was bad by any means. Just, I think the episodes before it, 5, 6, 7, were just so good, and like we were getting more and more payoffs. This one just felt like I wanted a little bit more. I wanted more. I know we're building, but I don't see how they're going to fit everything into the last episode. Now, the ending, we get a big payoff at the end. We get a mid-credit scene with a payoff there.
Yep.
But with all these kind of flashbacks and things, it was like, man, should we have 10 episodes and not 9?
Right.
Like, because this felt like almost like a filler episode.
Yeah,
in a way.
In a way, because I know what you mean. I mean, we needed a lot of this backstory. It's stuff that we've been wondering.
We did.
But to your point, the episode 7 ends, and I said this to you when you came in, episode 8, from beginning to end, by the time the show ends, all that happened was like they went outside. Like they were inside, Wanda and Agatha. Oh, I have your kids. And then spoiler alert for this episode, but like it ends like in the street, still facing off. So I totally hear you. The story did not move except for that mid-credit scene, but we'll talk about that.
And we did get some backstory with Agatha.
Okay,
and
all right.
You have some notes on there.
Yeah, we'll
me and
talk
Andy
through
were
it.
actually asking. See, when we do this podcast, like we're pretty raw when we come in, and we just want to talk like fanboys that we are. And it's hard to like, oh, we're not recording. Maybe we should hold off. But yeah, we were just talking about it. So
we didn't even talk about it.
No, that's okay. We're going to get into the details. I have some good notes for you guys. Giggler, how did you feel at the end of this episode?
I was a little bit disappointed. Not as much as like I think the last one was a little bit boring. But I mean, this is just all comparative. This show's still on a ridiculous trajectory of just greatness. And I think the reason being is just like we're becoming like starved for like advancement of the overall MCU storyline and how this is going to affect everything going forward. You can see that in the theories that people are coming up, whether they're true or not, but it all is like, oh, this is a sign of the Fantastic Four. This is a sign of someone else coming in, Mephisto's, something like that. Like there wasn't really big movement in that, but still we got to see a lot of really cool backstory, and I think that it's going to lead up to this next episode just crushing it, and I think we're all going to be an emotional wreck after the next episode because of what happened, and then also just thinking about taking a week off of not watching this show. But it is a positive that I did see in the news the other day that Kevin Feige announced that some of these shows will have second seasons. It's not been determined yet, but I don't think this will be one just because of
the style and
what is she gonna just do this to a different town or something?
Right. No, I hear what you're saying. I like that you guys are now calling the show boring when you attacked me last week for using that word. And now I'm like on the opposite end. Here's what I think. I think that this episode has a ton of exposition. We're gonna get into it, and like, but I still I had a great time, and I was glued to my TV. I was a little kid. I was an MCU fan watching, going, "Oh my gosh, this is cool." There were parts. Actually, rewatching it today, a lot of those flashbacks, I agree. They could have been about half the time, each one. Let's talk about it right now. Get right into the story. We start with, on this show, just like the show does, previously on WandaVision, which is the title of this episode, by the way, I think, right? Yeah. Yes, previously on 47 minutes, Wanda embarks on a troubling journey, revisiting her past for insight into her present and future. So during the previously, we actually get Wanda's backstory a lot in the previously. They get her stealing Vision's, her stealing Vision's body. Vision getting killed by Thanos. Like Thanos is actually on screen. I thought this is awesome. And then the big reveal at the end of episode 7. Of course, they show us Agatha Harkness is behind it all. She's been the one that brought Pietro. She's the one that's messing with Wanda's head. And it's time to find out exactly why. And we leave Wanda in her dungeon.
Do you have what she calls Pietro? Like, doesn't she call him something when she's talking to Wanda in this? Doesn't, like, Phaedro or something, like, makes
fake,
like,
yeah,
like
fake
fake
Pietro.
Yeah.
Pietro.
Pietro?
Yeah, I think so. Fake Pietro. Pietro. Can't we talk about this? Because we got to answer some questions about this Quicksilver. The show does open up, though. Got to say it. We called it. It's an Agatha Harkness origin story. It's Salem, Massachusetts, 1693. And here we see Agatha being punished by a group of witches. And they say it's for practicing dark magic and for stealing some knowledge. We don't know exactly what that means. We do know she has that book in her basement. Maybe she did steal. We talked about last week when Anthony from Jock and Nerd was on. We talked about episode 7, and we talked about that maybe she did take a book from Doctor Strange. But we don't know. Not a lot to go on here. She begs for her life. She says she didn't break their rules. Their rules bent to her power. These witches give everything they got to kill her. They start blasting her. The color starts going purple, like her power color, and she kills all these witches. Like, pretty easily. Don't know why.
Which please?
Which please? Including her mother, which her mother's the last one, and she's like, I'm going to really blast you. And Andy, you were just talking about this at the break. She has this crown that kind of goes on her head that kind of looks like the Scarlet Witch, but also just kind of looks like almost like a Jesus cross, almost like a thorn or roots or something.
Yep. I didn't know if it's meaningful right now, but it could be depending on what we see later in this episode. That top right corner on the YouTube, if you're...
Yes, maybe there's a connection there.
Yeah.
And then this show has made me, like, as this was going on, I went back and read about the Salem witch trials, just like how crazy they were.
Yeah.
19 people were executed in the Salem witch trials for being a witch. 14 women, 5 men.
Total?
Total.
I thought I would assume it was like much more, I guess.
I mean, still, it's talking about like mass hysteria and how crazy it was, but I mean, 19 were accused of being witches.
And here we go. It's crazy because like in this, it's actually not even people having her tied up to a stake. It's her coven that she's traded on. So it's a group of witches. Well, then after she kills her mom, she takes this weird pendant thing off of her dress. I don't know if you guys caught that. It was like a weird skull thing or something. She gets it and she flies off. And then boom, we are back to the dungeon. And it's Agatha and Wanda.
I think that's what she stole off of her mom's dress. I think is what she was wearing in the next, like, actually
her
in the
brooch
show.
or whatever
Yeah,
it is.
yeah.
I got some images up here if you're on our YouTube channel. That's what's maybe on her, especially like toward the end scene. It looks like she's got something right there.
Yep.
Okay, so we get Agatha and Wanda in the dungeon. Agatha is a full-on witch. She's blocking Wanda's powers using like spells on these old relics, and she's basically making fun of Wanda for like not knowing anything about witch like fundamentals, witch rules. She's like, "Do you even know what I'm talking about?" And she starts talking about how she did bring in fake Pietro, but she says it wasn't me, literally. She says I used a possession. It was a type of possession that she did. This makes me think that this is the Fox Quicksilver, and that it is going to be some kind of X-Men tie-over. And I don't know if he'll be the only one. I almost think that maybe she pulled him out. She says that she couldn't use the real body because there were holes in him. He was a continent away.
That was graphic to think about.
Absolutely.
Especially
but like
when
I love the specifics though, because then it was like, okay, so you couldn't use him. You got this other guy, and I think that maybe like the X-Men are gonna like come looking for him.
Fine by me.
Right, yeah.
I mean, your theory on how this episode would play out was pretty accurate.
Yeah, if you looked at those tweets, so it said episode 8 will be purely Wanda's backstory and Agatha's. I was wrong on one piece. What was it? It was like
coming back from the snap.
Yes, I thought we'd get that, but we didn't get that. But either way, so we get some stuff here. It's like, okay, maybe this Pietro's real. And then Agatha says she sensed Westview from like across the world, and her whole thing is here's her big thing. Here's what Agatha's up to. What she is there to find out how Wanda did this. All right, it's time for like all of us to find out how Wanda did this, and that's why we're gonna go down the road. What'd you find, PC Mike?
I was looking at that picture of Agatha's mom and the thing, and then is that her mom's name?
What's her mom's name? Oh no, is this gonna be a spoiler? Or is it like comic book lore?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if I want to say anything.
Yeah, I can tell. Like,
Yeah, it's not. I don't know. But probably best to just
leave it.
You never know.
All right. Well, maybe we'll talk about it on the Patreon part at the end.
Yeah.
We'll save that.
I don't know. It was when I typed in Agatha Harkness
Mother, yeah, mom.
a name came up, and it kind of was like,
Oh boy. Yeah, I don't know if I want to know that. Yeah, I don't. I'm not going to talk about it. Maybe
All right.
we'll think about it.
if you're curious, listener, you can go do it yourself. We will not be speaking.
There you
Yeah, we just don't want to spoil ourselves. I'm sorry. It'll like because I've done it before.
Yeah.
You know, it's like if you look too deep, you're like, oh, well, that's exactly what they're doing. Okay, so here we go. It's time for all of us to find out what's going on. Agatha is like, how are you? You are possessing people and changing reality miles away. I'm a witch that's been around for 500 years. You know, basically, we know that she's very powerful because she killed those witches. So she wants to know how she did this. All right, so before we move on, I wanted to ask you, Giggler, what do you think about Agatha? Do you think that she's on her own here? This is basically like the most of what we get on Agatha is this first 5 minutes. The rest of it's really all about Wanda. Do you think this lady's on her own? It seems like she's just kind of, like she says she was basically just searching for Wanda because she felt the energy, and she's just here to figure out what's going on.
Yeah. Using this episode as a basis and without prior knowledge of what I've read or thought about, I would think that she's doing this alone, but just the fact that she always talks about her husband Ralph, and we don't know who that is.
She does whisper to the bunny a couple times. She's like, not
So-
whisper, but she's like, she finally knows who we are.
Yeah, and I think that could be. I've seen speculation of like in the comic books, like she had like a tiger or something like that. That
Right.
was her like pet. And
Anthony talked about that last week.
Yeah.
She had like a kitten or something,
like
or a
that.
cat.
That might be they just switching that to a rabbit. But
Okay.
I mean, at first I thought the rabbit was like one of the kids. I think what we talked about last week, but we're
No.
off on that. But I'd say we're probably batting like worse than a professional baseball player on our predictions, but it's still fun to talk about, and
Yeah.
being right every once in a while is fun.
That's enough of a payoff for me. If I'm right once, I'm like, I'm on top of the world. I'm
Yeah.
like, oh, we called the one thing. Okay, let's get down these memories, because this is where, if you're in an OG MCU film, it gets really fun here. But again, I can kind of see Mike's point. Some of this was a little drawn out. The first one, we get Wanda and Pietro as young children. This is the part of Wanda's backstory where the Stark missile blows up her apartment, kills her parents. Did you guys notice the parents were not the people from the commercials?
Mm-hmm. I didn't expect that.
I didn't actually notice that at all. I mean,
So it's not them. So the question it really lies is like, who are these two people that are in almost every commercial in like the first 3 commercials? It's like I have no idea who they are. By the
Right,
way, I've never
right.
seen them in other movies that I can think of.
And yeah, these upcoming scenes definitely address a lot of those commercials, because in this one itself, that beeping of the is exactly like the toaster.
Yeah,
in the
it
first
was.
commercial, I think.
Yeah, the first commercial with the
Yeah.
toaster where it makes that weird beep, and then it's the other flashbacks too. You're totally right.
You can kind of draw a parallel to like each one is to a moment in these backstories. So
but it was really cool seeing all the DVDs
And
and
that
stuff
Yeah.
from her childhood, and they were all from the show. Like even Malcolm in the Middle was in that DVD box.
Yeah, and you start to get a lot of the ties.
Yeah.
The Dick Van Dyke Show, the Mary Tyler Moore Show, and these were the TV shows of her childhood. So it was that direct connection.
I wonder if, and this is just me thinking, dreams are so weird.
Mm-hmm.
And this is like a big dream for her. Those commercials are repressed memories.
Right.
And I wonder if in her dream, like they're not totally, those represent her parents, but they're changed a little bit because she was so young.
I mean,
And maybe she
maybe.
attached them somewhere. I don't know.
I don't know. I think that I don't know.
Or
I don't
was
know.
it like-
or maybe these people don't matter at all, and they're just like other members of the town. They could just be like another
True.
couple. You
But
know?
they have, I'm going to be very upset if all these breadcrumbs, like when you said with Ralph, her husband, if there's just no payoff for that, I'm going to be like, really? I got to wait
I don't know.
I got to wait 7 years down the line and see like a new movie, and they'll be like, oh, Ralph. You guys remember Ralph?
From
Like,
7 years ago. Hey, well, on if you go off their track record,
Yeah.
it might be what they do.
and older, grayer us will still be sitting
Yes.
around this table,
Yeah.
just giggling about that.
Yeah, we'll have gray
Happiness.
beards, chiseled abs, and we'll just be talking about WandaVision season 10. All right, so this is kind of cool. We find out that it looks like to me Wanda was a witch from a young age, and that she stopped this missile with maybe some powers. And Agatha says it. She's like, okay, so what powered you up to where you could do all this? And we know where this is going if you're an MCU fan. We get in Memory 2 how Wanda got her powers. We get Baron Wolfgang von Strucker, played by Thomas Kretschmann, same guy, same actor from the beginning of Age of Ultron, when they're fighting against the Avengers. They have Loki's staff. And then the end credit scene of that movie, of the movie we talked about earlier, Falcon and Winter Soldier, is the introduction of these characters. And we see Dr. von Strucker and hit them with the powers. These are the years leading up to that moment. This is crazy. I mean, this movie that we talked about today did come out in 2014. 7 years later, we're getting kind of the payoff. So, Mike, it's not looking good for what. Oh, no. Oh, God. We're going to be waiting.
By that time, we probably read every single comic book that came out and like come up with our own theories.
Dude, if you remember what I said from the beginning of this, I was looking up some stuff, but what did I say? Like, you can watch this stuff without those Easter eggs, too. And it's almost like been a little misleading. I don't know if a lot of the payoffs people think they're gonna get, but I don't know. We'll see. We only got one episode left. I'm kind of with you. What are they gonna pack into this thing?
And then I want to ask the listeners this. I would love to, when WandaVision leaves off, what comic or graphic novel should we read
Good question.
that might connect us a little bit more?
Good question.
Because we're coming in, we're not comic guys. Like I've had comics in the past, but what would be like the essential one to maybe get some more story or something like that? I think that would be cool to read and like kind of go through and see.
Yeah, like we watch this stuff and then we're like, well, we want to read some of the original content. Absolutely. That's a great question. Let us know. Write us at mostlysuperheroes.com/contact. Let us know. Moving the story along. So we do get, this is the big moment, guys. This is the picture you guys were talking about. We're bragging on our YouTube channel right now. We do have the images from Disney+. Here we go. Wanda goes in, powerless, to Von Strucker's lab. The Mind Stone is there. He says, touch it. She starts to go to it. To only her eyes, it looked like to me, by the time they showed everything. The Mind Stone, or the little gem from the thing comes out, goes up to her. The Infinity Stone, the Mind Stone, pops out of this, and Wanda reaches out to touch it, and it like explodes in power, this big yellow light, and it's going into her body. This is the process that she's getting her powers, almost looking like the Mind Stone chose her. Like she didn't even have to touch the thing. And then in the light, as she stands there and she's looking, she sees the outline of what looks like the Scarlet Witch, kind of like a woman floating in the air, a silhouette. She's got the horns. You know, we talked about maybe it being a tie to Agatha's mother because it looks similar. My theory was because of everything we've heard and talked about on this show, Anthony talked about the Scarlet Witch being like a Nexus being like a crossover multiverse type of character that's going to blow up and be huge. I'm thinking that this might be Scarlet Witch herself coming back and giving herself the powers. And that might be a payoff we get years down the road.
Yep.
But that's a total guess.
That's deep.
Can we quit saying years down the road?
And maybe they'll pay us off in this episode. Maybe they'll pay us off in Doctor Strange Multiverse of Madness 2, which comes out later this year.
Yes, please.
I think that's a little bit more realistic than years
I think
down the road.
big payoffs will happen quicker than we think, but I think like little Easter eggs, like people are starting to find and push together. Those might be like Phase 11.
Yeah. There'll always be stuff that keeps mixing. And
here's one.
Go ahead.
From talking about the commercials that we talked about earlier. I believe it was the second episode. There was a watch commercial that had Strucker's name on the watch. So that's kind of probably what references this scene where obviously
traumatic.
We
again.
were led to believe originally that Strucker gave them these powers, but evidently, per Agatha's reveal prior, she might have been born a witch. So that kind of changes a lot of things about how we view the creation of mutants in the MCU, as to where originally we thought that Strucker created them to be, I guess, mutants for lack of a better word, but enhanced individuals or whatever is probably what we call it officially. And might be just how they're born. There could be mutants everywhere
Like
in the
natural-
MCU. We
there's
just
like
don't
nat-
hear about them.
There's like natural mutants versus.
Or maybe there's something that happens to awaken the gene. That's like something that's always been talked about in like the original theories before this all even started. So
Did Quicksilver get his powers from the Infinity Stone, from the Time Stone too?
that we don't know. I don't think.
Like, we don't even know that.
Obviously,
do we?
he didn't have super speed as a kid. Otherwise, he would have saved everyone. And I don't know.
Yeah, that's a really. I mean, these are the questions that we're asking. Is like, all right, well, how are these people awakened?
Yeah.
And also, it's also you're having to ask yourself, well, hold on now, what's an MCU mutant? They've never used the word before, but that doesn't mean that's not what they are.
Correct. And also, Agatha is showing her this. Who knows if she's just trying to manipulate her as well. I mean, we don't know that all this that she's showing her to be facts or real.
She does say that we're visiting some real reruns as they
Really?
go back,
Okay.
and like it led you to believe that like this is true, but like who's to say it's not?
Yeah.
But I think that they're real memories, and Wanda seems like she's actually remembering. She's like, oh my gosh, that's right. Moving on, memory 3. This is cool. Wanda living at the Avengers compound, like having her same bedroom that she has in Captain America Civil War. So this happens like these are the moments leading up to Captain America Civil War, and it's after Age of Ultron, after her brother dies, and you're basically watching Wanda and Vision like start to kindle a relationship, and we get this unbelievable line that from Vision, but what is grief but love persevering? I mean, are you crying yet? I teared up a little bit. I mean, that was pretty good, and I'm just I think I'm preparing for this Vision to.
I did love like when he just like came to the wall and she's like, Vision, are you there? And he just like kind of slips through the wall. He's like, yeah, I'm here.
Yeah, and that's a nod to like a joke from
Oh,
Civil
yeah.
War where he has the same thing, and she goes, "Vision, we talked about this."
Yeah.
Ridiculous.
And then I did look up Quicksilver really quickly.
Yeah, go ahead.
It says he is a mutant, a human born with innate superhuman powers.
But is that like the comic books Quicksilver?
It says in most depictions.
Well, we need to know like MCU Quicksilver, played by what's his name, Aaron Tyler.
Johnson.
Is that right? Did I
Yeah.
get that right?
Yeah.
The first two? I didn't know the last one.
You got it.
I was gonna say Thompson. I'm glad you cut me off. I was gonna ask, was there any part of you, PC Mike, during this scene where like Vision, like we get a flashback to Vision just kind of being human for the first time? Is he redeeming himself at all to you yet? This show to me is kind of.
I think he has.
Already?
I think he has.
Already?
But I mean, at the end of the day, he's still just a computer. Like,
But that's the question though. He seems,
can machines love?
well, he's like different than just a robot. I mean, he's powered by
I mean,
like
he's the most sophisticated computer robot in the world, right?
sentient being
Yeah.
is what
Yeah.
they call him.
Pretty important.
I was a little sad when he was on the table later on.
That was sad.
That hurt to watch. Yeah.
Well, getting right to that, leading up to this, Wanda said, I wanted him back. She starts to remember, and Agatha says, okay, the door opens. We're at Sword HQ. It's time to learn what happened. Agent Hayward, they meet up very quickly. We do see her bust through the doors. You know, we saw this footage of her busting through the doors, making it look like remember that early in episode like 2 or 3? But then she's talking to Hayward. He's like taunting her in my mind. Like very much
Yep.
so. Like little under punches, like, oh, we're going to bring him back online. Oh, I'm sorry. I mean back to life. And he's like, oh, you want to take it with you? Keeps calling it it.
Yeah.
And just riling her up because I think he wanted to see if she could go down there and turn him back on.
Oh yeah. I think he's manipulating the shit out of her for sure.
And that failed. So then she actually just leaves. She didn't take Vision's body. She just leaves and she gets in her Scarlet Buick and she drives across New Jersey to Westview.
It was really Scarlet. I didn't
It
even
was
catch
it
that.
was like burgundy.
Well done.
I mean, it was a shade of red, and it was a very nice Buick.
Cool.
It was like one of the first times I'd ever seen like an Avenger like get into their car and then like back it up and like
Just
drive it.
go to a house,
Looked
do
like
normal things.
Looked like she was in like an IKEA parking lot.
Yeah.
It was just the sword base.
Instead, she's just going to alter reality.
All right, so she drives into Westview, and we see Westview before Wanda reality has happened. We see Norm, we see Mrs. Hart, we see a few other townspeople.
David Schwimmer, aka Ross from Friends.
Yeah, David Schwimmer's like little brother. And here we go. Wanda pulls up to this plot where this house should be. She has like a blueprint or a deed, like that Vision had bought this house, I guess, for them.
Mhm.
And it didn't even get the chance to get built. This town is down and dead. This is post-blip world. So it's like, I think this is probably one of the towns that was really affected is what I'm guessing, and why it was so like, it was really mopey. It was looking like it was like really broken. The world's like recovering still, I feel like.
Yeah, he would have had to buy it, I guess, in the Infinity War time period. And
Which is 2 years. I mean, there's a lot of time between, all of it. Age of Ultron to Civil War to Infinity War. You're talking like 3 or 4 years.
Yeah. Crap, that's insane.
It is
like,
insane.
I didn't catch that at first. Was that the first time that they showed the letter when it was on the front seat of her car?
That's what I was thinking. I was like, where did this come from?
Because I was just like, what?
But didn't they say that he had a living will?
I don't know.
I thought that Hayward said something about a living will or something, but I thought maybe they gave it to her.
That's what.
And I was like, what is that? Like, you guys are like reading his mind? Like,
that's what one of the most effed up things that Hayward said was like, we're not just going to let you take $3 billion of vibranium and
put it in the
bury
ground.
it in the ground. I was like, oh my God.
He was taunting her for sure, I think.
Yeah, to where maybe he is trying to get her to try to create him because of how failed this all is.
I think it was. I think he wanted her to go down there, use her powers, and she does. She touches him with her powers, and she's like, I can't feel you.
Oh, yeah.
Do we blame him for wanting to save $3 billion in his budget, though?
No.
I can get it from a business standpoint.
Yeah. Vibranium's pretty... I'd be collecting that shit all the time if it was real here.
So here's the big part at the house. This is it. Her magic just explodes. Twice. First time it explodes, it just starts like making the house in Wanda reality stuff that we're used to seeing, glitchy looking TV stuff, all from her, nothing else. No Vision body, no one else around. She builds this thing, and then it double explodes. It goes for miles on end, gets the whole town. And this is where she literally creates Vision from scratch. Is that what you guys saw too? It looked like to me she made him from absolutely nothing. And we do get the line from Agatha just to kind of jump to that part. She says, like, you can do spontaneous creation. So it's like, holy shit. She just made a new Vision with like a new Infinity Stone in his head. But like, can he not leave her?
And like, we've always had that theory. It has to be something that's already there for her to change it. Didn't we kind of talk about that before?
Well, we thought that, but like they proved us wrong because she just made it from scratch, like literally out of her into midair. I'm pretty sure because she's so powerful, she made him.
Yeah.
However, I think that he has to be with her.
But he goes out on his own in the town. And then he tried to
leave, and as he crossed,
out.
it was pulling him back because he was way too far away. I don't know if he can leave her. I think that's the catch. She might be able to take the whole reality down, and maybe he could stay, but like, I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah, to think she basically proving that she can create an Infinity Stone from nothing. If that's true, that's
true, or is it like some kind of modified Infinity Stone? With just looks.
Also with like no training, she's able to do that. So that just kind of shows it is valid that. Well, Agatha's like making fun of her, like, right. Think about how we call her prior to this, like she's one of the strongest, and she hasn't even had formal training, so
right.
We don't know what's to come from here.
Well, and let's just wrap it up because we're here at the very end, and this is where they try to answer it, I guess, kind of quickly, but it comes back to Wanda in the present day, and Agatha's like slow clapping in the crowd, like slow clapping WandaVision. She's like, "Bravo!" They're out in the street. She's got the boys by her magic, and she says, "You are not supposed to exist. You're a creature that can spontaneously create." And that it is. I see people making fun of it online, and I think it was kind of written just a little. And that makes you the Scarlet Witch. First time ever said in an MCU title.
Yeah, I didn't even realize that was something that wasn't said prior to this. I feel like it's now becoming a thing to where, oh, she hasn't been called this before. It's going to be her coming out party, I guess.
Well, because she hasn't really. She has been like on this journey of just learning her powers and kind of going along with the Avengers, but she hasn't. Like you said, we're talking about her as this one big, powerful being, but she's never done anything in the MCU to show us this until now.
Yep.
Wild. PC Mike, how were you feeling when it ended and Agatha said that line and it goes to credits, and we'll talk about the end credit scene last?
I wanted a little bit more.
Yeah.
Like you said, they've literally advanced the story, and like if that's a present timeline, 4 minutes.
Yep. They didn't even you didn't even get Vision back from flying off in episode 7, like leaving Darcy. You'd think that like at least he'd be there.
Yeah.
But talking about this makes me, again, more interested. This podcast makes me way more interested in things. And now I'm like thinking about how powerful was she? Did the stone help her become even more powerful? And now I'm thinking about her brother because I'm trying to find if her brother also had the powers, or let's tie in an HBO show with Game of Thrones where we have one who's the Queen of Dragons, but her brother was a fake guy and he got burned. Daenerys' brother got burned because he didn't have the powers. Did her brother not have the powers and she had the power? You know what I mean?
I do know. And it's like you got to start asking fundamental questions like, well, who is Wanda? Or maybe like those people in the commercials were her real parents. And like maybe those people in Sokovia aren't even her parents because they were just like regular old Sokovian people.
She seemed to be she was emotional wreck during that scene. So I feel like it has to be them, but who knows?
Or it's who she thinks they are.
Right.
Because Agatha says she was born a witch, and I'm with you. It's like, well, if she was born a witch, yeah, did Quicksilver have something? But did she get X gene powers from the Infinity Stone?
Did I enhance it?
Right. Did it just boost it up?
Mm-hmm. And did her brother get them? I don't know.
Fair question.
But that is one of the things on the Wikipedia that I'm on. It's like, well, we thought this was happening, that they were made in this lab, and now with WandaVision, we don't really know.
Giggler, what did you think of the end of this episode? What were you thinking during the part where she made Vision from scratch as that was happening?
I was just kind of in shock, honestly. Obviously, it was kind of a big swerve. We all thought that she just stole the body, reanimated it. They kind of hinted to that with the nasty scene where you see the indented forehead, where obviously she was just having a bad moment, I guess, where she saw the deceased Vision in her eyes. But yeah, I think I'm really excited to see where her powers and everything go from here. But at the same time, this might turn her to a villain. So that wouldn't be good for the rest of the squad.
Could be like a Dark Phoenix situation.
Yeah.
Where she goes bad.
Not
bad like the movie.
I know. Let's get some better juju in here. Knock on wood. We're having a really good time.
No, I'm just talking about Dark Phoenix, the character. Because I think the Dark Phoenix character is amazing.
Or Jean Grey.
The Jean Grey storyline to Dark Phoenix is really, really fun. So
yeah,
I could see that maybe being that road where she is tapping into such a high power source where she
can't control it.
She can't control it, and she also didn't remember any of this. She had to go through this process with Agatha to even remember what happened.
Correct. And who knows? I going into the scene where she was in the Sword headquarters talking to Hayward, I thought for sure that he was gonna be actually manipulating her somehow, and maybe she is. That's just I don't know. He was gonna capture her and make her do this, but obviously he manipulated her into doing this out of her own free will, and now she's remembering it from the help of another witch. So who? I don't know.
Let's move to Hayward. Actually, this is perfect. We'll talk about the end credit scene, and we really do kind of the highlight of Hayward's plan. We know that he had the body, right? Wanda did not take it. He flat out lied. We get the Sword camp outside of the Hex. Hayward. He says, someone walks up and says, we're ready for launch. They go inside. They're powering up something using that Wandified magic drone they pulled out. They're like, we'll just use this energy source to power up something. And boom, here we go in the case. We got an image here on our YouTube channel. We get white vision. This guy opens his eyes. He looks at his hands, doesn't say a word, but he is up. He's awake. There are two visions now. What in the actual hell is what I was thinking? A second Vision is born. I think it's going to fight the real Vision. I don't know. Will one make it? Will one die? Will both die? And what will happen to Wanda, Agatha, and the boys and these two Visions? Is it a new person? Is it Ultron? What are you thinking?
Ultron, wow. Could you imagine him talking with James Spader's voice?
Oh my gosh, they bring him back?
I would crap my pants if that happened on Friday. So
that could be the cameo. James Spader coming back as Age of Ultron. But he said he's never worked with this actor, and he very much worked with
what if
James
the cameo,
Spader, I would think.
What if the cameo is himself?
I've never worked with this. No.
Could you? I don't remember how he actually said it, but if he just said a character, someone that I've wanted to work, like he could be talking about, okay, hey, you're gonna play this guy Vision, and I'm sure he did all of his homework reading every single Vision comic or story ever.
Oh,
And
I don't know.
maybe I mean that's what I would do if I was about to play a
Yeah, that's true. You'd read all the source material.
Yeah, so
yeah.
you and I'm sure he could have seen that and been like, oh, I hope that we get to see this character on screen. And I've heard it be speculated for months, but I never thought I don't know anything about it, so it's not something I'm going to get super jacked up about to see something in the comic books that I know nothing about. So I mean, but still seeing this, how like this is the end credit scene, that stands to all end credit scenes getting excited because it just makes me even more pumped for what's going to happen. Like you said, 2 visions, 2 witches, 2 kids. WTF? I don't know.
Dude, and it's like I felt like a little kid. I was like, because you always want to see like I was always a big fan of like Bizarro Superman, like stuff like that, like the alternate version, like the anti stuff. You know, DC does a lot of that stuff, and this was like I felt like kind of cool. Like it's like, what is this other vision? What will happen? PC Mike, final thoughts on this episode? Big moments that we didn't get to talk about, and any predictions?
So I think that the white vision is what they talked about in earlier episodes, Project Cataract.
Yes, okay, that makes sense.
That's what the internet's saying. I wasn't sitting there like coming up with
No,
it,
that was in the email that Darcy found.
Mhm.
She emailed that to Wu. I also noticed that on his head, it does look like a nano, it's like one of Tony's nano arc reactors from his chest. I don't know.
I think the James Spader thing has been rumored for a while. I don't know if it's going to happen or not, but I don't think that would be the cam. Man, I don't know. I don't think it's.
Well, no,
the
he's
canon.
already worked with him, so he can't. That can't.
I
be
think
it.
he already has,
Yeah.
and I honestly, I think it is. It just keeps pointing to Doctor Strange. I don't think anyone wants to really face that it's just about Doctor Strange because it's the most obvious answer. But I think he's going to show up and like be like, "Hey, what's been going on over here?"
Yeah, but I'm 90% sure Paul Bettany said it's not Doctor Strange.
Okay,
It was after, so
That's fair.
he did that initial interview that kind of piqued everyone's interest, and we were all like, okay, it's Evan Peters. That's not that exciting. But he doubled down and said it's a cameo that but it's not Doctor Strange.
right. And then
Could it be him, or is it who Agatha's working with, or C, none of the above?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like I've done a good job of calling some stuff, at least here in the later. But I'm telling you, I'm feeling at a loss going into this season finale. I just don't know. I don't know what it's gonna do, how it's gonna end. I'm just gonna say it. An Avenger showing up. Some Avenger.
I'm going to make a prediction.
Go ahead.
I'm going to shoot for the stars.
Go for it.
X-Men will show up to save this version of Quicksilver.
Oh my gosh. And like that's
That'd be wild.
what if it oh my gosh. It's like what if it's like we talked about Michael Fassbender as Magneto.
They held a Luke Skywalker cameo
On the table.
out of the public eye for
Elizabeth Olsen.
that long. Like I was reading some articles about what they did to hide Evan Peters' inclusion, and he's not even technically a main character of this. So I can't imagine what they have to do to hide something like that. But when they do, it's so freaking worth it at the end. Like I got goosebumps even thinking about the Luke Skywalker cameo, and would put Star Wars at like barely in my top 10 of franchises of movies all time. So
Yeah. I know exactly what you mean. Well, one to go, guys. One more. I can't believe that just like that, WandaVision's coming to a close. It feels like we just started this thing.
This one's going to be like, don't blink.
Yeah.
Don't breathe.
Don't breathe.
Like,
Don't say a word.
yeah,
it might have to be like minute intervals, like watch, like, I got to take a break.
I'm so excited. Holy shit. I just realized how excited I am to get up again.
I got
7 a.m.
a couple Easter eggs that
Let's hear it.
that I saw. So the way that she is like creating, like the red mist coming off her and everything is supposed to be a callback to the scene in Age of Ultron after her brother dies, where you just kind of see her just go crazy and she just murks all the robots that are around her. Let's see. So the heart that was on the note from Vision with like the deed to the house was like the same that was on the calendar in the first episode. So evidently that they're pointing to that as saying that's like their 1 year anniversary or something like that. So
The
kinda
heart
makes-
on the calendar from
makes
episode 1.
yeah, so that makes everything even more sad.
This might have been like their closing date, like August 23rd or whatever it was.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then in the scene in the Avengers headquarters where they're talking on the bed, Vision and Wanda, so she says, It's just like this wave washing over me again and again. It knocks me down, and when I try to stand up, it just comes for me again. It's just going to come drown me. And then Monica basically said that exact same thing when she was in the Hex. So evidently she's just manifesting her feelings to everyone in that area, and that explains why when Vision like touches the people and they like come to it for like a minute, they're like, it's always like they're in pain and like there's
they're all in agony.
Yeah,
because
so
that
like,
they're replicating what she's going through.
yeah.
That's
So
exactly right. That sounds exactly right.
I'm just glad I don't live in Westview. We'll just say
Dude,
that.
these people are going through it. And what's going to happen to these people is the big question. And what's going to happen to this town? We don't know anything. Like, we haven't even asked that question.
Yeah. Could you imagine, like, you just come to and all of a sudden you're, like, wearing a clown outfit? Like, you're just in the circus? Like, how did I get here?
I'd be like, I guess dreams do come true.
I know we've made that joke, but it's like living in Gotham. Like, oh, this is happening again?
Wear a helmet to work,
Yeah.
walking downtown. All right, well, one to go. I can't believe it. Next week's the season finale, and I'd say that I'm, like, really super sad, but the truth is it's only 18 days till Falcon and Winter Soldier.
Yeah,
So
when this comes out, it'll be 15.
That's right. So
About 2 weeks.
So about 2 weeks, a little time. We got some other stuff that we need to watch. We got some we got to prep for the Snyder Cut. Actually, it's good timing for the tournament. We talked about this. With that, we will keep you posted. Let us know what you're thinking of the show. We will be watching WandaVision, of course, this Friday, talking about it next week, the big season finale on Disney Plus. Holy cow, we're so excited.